Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thank y'all for tuning in. It is the Thursday episode, part 3 of our 4-part series. You're listening to the Juicebox Heroes podcast. I'm one of your hosts, PK. We got the Dubon Fan Club president, Chris Moreno. Sweet Bee Bones Bryles is with us as well. Fellas, how's your week?
Busy. Baseball, and work. That's about it, man. Bryles, how's your week going?
Same old, man. It was good to get out on Wednesday for a little league baseball. That was fun. And then we've got the World Series coming up tomorrow. So I've been crunching some numbers, looking at that. And, it doesn't matter. Obviously we don't like the Dodgers, but, in Toronto isn't exactly our fans of ours either, except for the 2022 World Series. They were the only ones on Twitter that gave us a congratulation after we won the whole thing. So anyway, long story short, yeah, it was great, man. PK, how you doing?
Pretty good. Had volleyball tonight, won. Now we go on to the district tournament next week. I think it is next week.
Nice.
So yeah, but all good, man. But let's get into this thing. So we are starting, like I said, part 3 of this 4-part series. We're going to finish with the infield next on Sunday. It's going to be great. But before that, let's talk about this bullpen. I mean, look, it was just full of ups and downs. I was going to say full of ups and downs, right? You can start with, oh my God, I'm forgetting his name, Taylor Scott. Taylor Scott coming into 2025 I think we collectively, us three at least, I think we had a lot higher expectations, for him, at least to, try to repeat how good he was the season before. That was not the case at all. We send him down, we release him, or he gets DFA'd, he signs with Arizona. I think we signed him back later in the season, right? So, terrible for him. Like, it just wasn't a good bounce back year for him. What you had this year is probably the most lefties I've seen in an Astros bullpen in a long ass time, right? Brian King, Steven Oker, Hader, those are your 3 mainstays, and Bennett freaking Sousa.
Yeah.
So 4 lefties in your bullpen. And, we can throw in Caleb Orr. I think I've talked about it till I'm blue in the face about how much I don't think that guy should be pitching for us. But Caleb Orr. Who else am I missing? I'm missing some other guys, like straight up just
Brian
bullpen
Abreu.
guys. Well, but aside from Abreu and Hader, but I mean,
well, you had the 2 guys that we picked up towards the end of the season. You had De Los Santos we picked up off of waivers from Atlanta, and then you had the guy who just always seems to find a team to play for, in Craig Kimbrell. So those were our 2 other guys that you're probably forgetting about. And then you did have some guys that, were normally starting pitchers that, had to come out of the bullpen. So, I mean, but like when I, worked on the cover art for this episode, like after I made it, I was like, holy crap, man, there's like 7 lefties. And like literally, like I was struggling to find another righty outside of reusing like either Lance McCullers or AJ Bluebaugh. So a lot of lefties.
Yeah, this was a really weird season for the bullpen, mainly because of injuries. I mean, I know we at least set the record for the Astros on how many injuries we had during the season. But, I mean, if you look at the bullpen, we had guys filling in that were starters from AAA. We had some of the starters that came back after injury that were coming in and filling in. We had Lance McCullers going into the bullpen at the end of the season. So it was – I hate to say it, but it was kind of a mishmash all the way around. And the biggest injury out of all of them was Hader. That was the one guy that had the best start out of absolutely everybody. He was just the lockdown guy for saves all the way until he got injured. And then after that, we were just trying to piecemeal everything together to hopefully get to the 9th inning, get that save and get it figured out. So, it's between the guys that we picked up kind of off the garbage heap, between the guys that we traded for, just grab whenever and wherever we could. I think they did a fantastic job of it, but at the same time, it was very difficult just putting this bullpen together in 2025 as much as they possibly could. And, I got to give our pitching staff or our coaching staff props because, they did a really good job for what they had to work with.
Yeah, I think Hader was well on his way to earning that $95 million contract this season.
Damn straight.
I mean, he really was, before he got hurt. I mean, last year, I personally don't think that he was as good as we expected. I mean, I know he wasn't as good as we expected him to be. Espada still would run him out in the 10th inning, which, that was 2 years in a row after pitching the ninth, then pitching the 10th. We see and know what happens when that guy goes back out in the 10th. It's not a good look for the team, for him, right? But he was well on his way to earning that big contract that we gave him. Terrible that he went down. So the next man that steps up into that closing position is Abreu. Abreu is an elite 8th inning guy in the entire major leagues. That is his thing. And he was freaking nails this year. And you put him into that closing role, and we talked about it before during the season. At least for right now, Abreu he's not the one for the 9th inning. He had, I think his first 9th inning save opportunity, right the next game after Hader went down, I think he ends up getting the save. He was pretty pumped up, but Abreu has a lot of traffic. And when you have a lot of traffic in the 9th inning, that tends to not bode well because you're stressing on every pitch, right? I mean, look, and don't let me get it wrong. Like Hader had stressful innings also, but Abreu seems to have more of that more often, right? Brian King earlier in the season, it was Brian King, Abreu, Hader. That was your 7, 8, 9, and it was, it was trending in a very damn good, direction. And then you had Bennett Sousa, who for me, he came out of nowhere, right? For me. Now, you guys might know him or have heard of him prior to, but for me, he came out of nowhere. And the dude throws freaking gas. And that dude was nails also until he got hurt. So to touch on your thing, you had the Hader injury, you had the Sousa injury, right? I mean, those are two. I mean, that's essentially 6, 7, 8, 9, right? Where your pitching staff, due to injuries, was only going 5 innings, 5 2/3, 5 1/3, right? And so, man, it was your bullpen did actually pretty damn well overall, given what the starting rotation looked like from an injury standpoint and from the guys that they had to bring in for starters. Like the bullpen did, I think overall did fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, so pretty much starting from the beginning of the season, I think the biggest thing that the Astros bullpen struggled at, and it was something that we've been talking about since last spring training, into the offseason, into this spring training, into this season, was I felt like they really missed up until the very end of the season. They missed that long reliever out of the bullpen that could come in when you had a guy only go 5, and he could give you 6 and 7, hand the ball over to the bullpen. I believe that Ryan Gusto was starting to get on that path, but then that's when the injury started to compile, so they had to shift him into the rotation, which then, because your outfield was so depleted, you ended up having to ship him to Miami in the Jesus Sanchez trade. So I think that was a big thing. You had guys off of, and I'll pull up the slide that shows the stats and stuff like that. I mean, but for the most part, you had a bullpen that was going out there completely gassed. I mean, because consistently, like PK just said, you had starters going 5, 5 1/3, and then you'd have the same hodgepodge of guys go out there because you're not going to throw Hader out there in the 6th, right? And I think Espada did do a really good job of learning from the mistakes he made last season with Josh Hader. And I think that's why Josh Hader really flourished this year. And, again, what PK said, you really saw this is why we're paying this guy $20+ million a year to be a closer, because he was nails. And then, of course, what happens? He gets hurt. So, and then for the most part, you had Caleb Ort. He was hurt for the majority of the season. Came up for a cup of coffee, got smacked around, got sent back down, came back up, got smacked around again. And then like it's like the bullpen did just enough to get you along. I mean, you had guys like De Los Santos came up, a guy that was released by I think two other teams early this season.
Mm-hmm.
Comes with the Astros, is nails for his first 7 or 8 appearances. Kind of got a little shaky towards the end. And I think that again that has to go with the constant usage of the same 5 or 6 guys. And again, it wasn't really until AJ Blueball came in and really solidified that long relief role, that 2 to 3 inning guy out of the bullpen, which saved, your back end of the bullpen. You had guys like I just drew a blank on his name. The guy used to Kimbrel. He came in, was nails for the most part. I think he threw like 6 innings, 6 shutout innings. I mean, so the bullpen, like Browl said, the bullpen, like PK said, literally was hanging on a thread. But to be fair, just like every bullpen in the major league has their hiccups, for the most part, for what they were given with, they pretty much held it down, right? And then, Josh Hader gets hurt, so you have to, I mean, who else are you going to throw in the closer role? Are you going to throw Caleb Lort in the closer role? No.
Hell
it's
no.
going to have to be Abreu. I mean, Lance McCullers tried to make that transition from starting pitcher to that 2 to 3 inning guy out of the bullpen. He struggled. I mean, so you pretty much had to do kind of like trying to fit a puzzle together, trying to get that bullpen just to work. So there was a lot of factors going against his bullpen. I mean, but I agree with you guys. I think for what they've accomplished, I think it was a very successful year. I mean, so. Like I'm not going to sit here and like beat up Abreu. I mean, I think I agree with you. I don't think he doesn't have a closer's mentality. I think he's fantastic as a 8th inning guy. I mean, but I think what you need to do going into the offseason is you need to look at, okay, we have Hader in the 9th, Abreu in the 8th. How do we, maybe it is blue balls that christened guy that goes 2 innings out of the bullpen, but how do we get the ball into the Abreu / Hader hands going forward? So I think that's going to be the big question.
I think as a group, the bullpen is probably the group MVP of this team for 2025.
I'd agree with that.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I wouldn't argue with that either. And I can especially say that after doing some research for this episode, like pulling up stats and looking at everything on what we've got moving forward, what our availability is, especially with free agents, not free agents, but what year the pitchers we have in contract are free agents. So with the bullpen that we've got coming up and looking at actually what they did this year, they did better on paper than the eyeball test. And I say that only because obviously we're all super Astros fans. We're going to be hypercritical of, every single pitch coming out of the bullpen, just like what PK was saying, especially when your starters are getting, only going 5 1/3, 5 2/3, 6 innings if you're lucky. Because in a perfect world, even if your starters are going 6, then you've got your 3 guys coming in and just shutting it down, and that's the end of the ball game. But this year did not work out that way. We had guys coming in from all over the place. So once again, kudos to the coaching staff for that. But yeah, there were a lot of surprises. There were a lot of really good surprises. I think our AAA staff down in Sugar Land did a fantastic job of getting these guys prepared to come up to the big league and actually perform, go in there. And even the starters like, Gordon and Blue Ball, those guys came out of the pen and looked fantastic. So, I think we got very lucky. And to your point, PK, yes, I agree. I think that they were out of, all the groups that we've got and that we've done research over that we've been talking about over the last couple of weeks. I think the bullpen is kind of the shining star in all this because out of everybody, they had probably the biggest issues and they shined the best.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I like, the AJ Blue Ball thing was really awesome to watch at the end of the season because of his, I don't know, I guess lack of success early on that first start. It was really cool to see him go down, right? Go back to Sugar Land, put some more work in, put some more time in, get a little bit more comfortable with his pitches. And, he had the taste of facing major leaguers. Like, it's not AAA, right? Like, you've got the margin for error and the margin of misses on those strikes is minimal, right? And you saw what he was able to do when he came back up. I mean, we've talked about, I don't want to get into starting rotation because we've already talked about it, but we've talked about with Blue Ball specifically that, he should get a definite look at that number 5 role. However, I really like him in that long relief, like Chris has talked about during the season, after the season, because, Bryce, to your point, even if our pitcher goes 6 innings, right, and then you would ideally like to only use 3, maybe 4 relievers in the next 3 innings, right? So if a pitcher goes 6, you would like to use only 1 reliever to go the rest, however many outs he needs to complete the 6, then turn it over to 7, 8, 9, and so on and so forth, right? So, but to have that stopgap for when an outing goes sideways, when Colton Gordon, if he's, for conversation's sake, if he's out there only throwing 4, you can turn to a definite long relief guy to give you 2 good innings to hopefully, keep the game close, right? Give your offense a chance, and then get to the back of the bullpen. So, yeah, I think overall, man, it was a fantastic job of that bullpen. I mean, minus obviously the hiccups. And Chris, you touched on it. De Los Santos looked a little worn by the end of the season. He was definitely leaving balls hanging. He was getting rocked a little bit more. But I don't think that at the time that we saw the acquisition of De Los Santos from Atlanta that we were all like, hell yes, we just got our guy, right? Like, I don't think any of us were like that. But to see him come over and then essentially stick it to the Braves, like in front of their face, literally speaking, like he was nails the whole time. The Kimbrel thing, that guy's been hanging out in the AAA the whole season, waiting for his shot. And when he got it, he took full advantage of it, And so, like you said, man, like the bullpen gave. How many times did we do an episode during the season where we came in and said the bullpen did their job and they kept the damn game close, but the offense couldn't get anything together? I mean, it was often. It was often.
Yeah.
So can you imagine not having not even having a bullpen? I mean, it'd be, shoot, we would probably got canceled. We just had to put parental warning labels on every episode.
Right.
No, I agree. I mean, like, I think without the bullpen, holding it down, I think this is a team that would have probably been close to being sellers at the trade deadline. And I think that we would have been trying to move Fromber. I think that's what probably would have happened. Now, I mean, again, that's another debate for another day. Yeah, in hindsight, yeah. So, but yeah, I'm going to go ahead and throw up this slide because I know Bryles put so much work into the research. So I don't want to see his work go unseen. So here's pretty much what you have. You got Josh Hader, Brian Abreu, Brian King, Caleb Orr, Bennett Sousa. Their numbers, and I do, like Bryles brought up a good point. Because like you look at some of these ERAs. Now you look at Caleb Orr with a 4.89. You look at De Los Santos with a 4.36, where most of that damage was done with Atlanta. But holy crap, if you really look at it, you're looking at Hader 205, Abreu 228, Brian King 278, Sousa 284, Okert 301, Craig Kimbrel 2.25, right? I mean, with it kind of reminds me of when we would lose our minds about Ryan Presley, and then we would pull up his stats and like, oh, well, his ERA was still like 3.2. It's like when you look at it on paper, like PK was talking about, you kind of look back, like, we would sit here, and I know like we would text each other, be like, oh God, here comes Okert again. Okert blows the lead. But then you look at his season stats and his ERA is barely over 3. Sousa blew it. And his ERA is sub 3. I mean, so you look at the numbers alone, this was a damn good bullpen for basically having to just bubble gum it, stick it together and it held, to be honest with you. I mean, now, again, it's hard to replace an all-star closer like Josh Hader. That I think that was one of the final death blows of the season. Then Jordan getting hurt not too long after that. But, I mean, really, this bullpen held it down. I mean, and you look at the stats can back it up easily.
Well, and that's why I was talking about like the eyeball test earlier. It's like it felt they didn't do that good of a job, because you're right. We would be on our group text together and be like, "Oh my God, what is going on again?" And we're just giving our rant on whoever gave up the winning run that night. But all right, so PK's clearly got an agenda against Caleb Ward. But other than that, so we'll make sure not to invite him as a guest for the podcast. But anyway, other than that, it did seem kind of like that was the case. And there were nights that I felt like I was like, okay, well, even we brought Lance in. I remember at the end of the year, like he would go out there out of the bullpen and look fantastic, and then we would play somebody like the Nationals or the A's, and then he'd give up like 5 runs and get 1 out, which just would blow his ERA up, right? And I just said McCullers as an example. But, that kind of felt like a lot of these guys, it's like they would eat when they were playing really good teams, and then when they were playing when they're playing bad teams, and then when we were playing really good teams, they're playoff contenders, the guys that come in pressure situations and not necessarily perform the way we wanted them to. But overall, Chris, to your point, yes, you look at that stat sheet, and I pulled that straight off of MLB.com. Those were their stats for the 2025 season. You look at it and you're like, we had a good bullpen. So even though we were just putting guys in there and doing the best we possibly could, yeah, I think overall it was a success.
Yeah, and look, and you didn't include John Rooney. I think that was the Miami Marlin guy that we got later, right? Wasn't that him?
There was a note on there was a note on the stat sheet that Browse did, said this is not included in Matt Rooney, and I was like, who the hell is Matt Rooney?
How many nights do we have like that though?
The only reason I know
like he came in, pitched 1 game, and then he was hurt the rest of the season.
He pitched against Miami, and that's the only reason I remember it, because they made a deal about it, a big deal, like he signed with them, whatever. Jaden Murray, I think he had a couple cups, a few times.
He's another kid. I'm telling you, Jaden Murray, he's another kid to watch out for. I mean, usually he's had a couple of pretty good seasons down in Sugarland, and he's like I said, if the Astros, not saying that they're going to go bargain shopping, but if some of these bullpen arms that they're looking at are going to cost too much, I wouldn't be opposed to giving Jaden Murray a good look. I mean, like I said, he's one of those guys that, like, if you kind of pull up his AAA stats, I mean, like, he doesn't look too bad. He's had a couple of pretty good seasons down there. So I wouldn't. He
throws some gas too, man. Like he throws some gas.
He was also on my did not include list just because he only had, I think, like 6 innings. Yeah. So I didn't. It's like the stats. I didn't think there was like enough to actually put him up there.
So. No. I mean, I'm looking at your document that you sent us. That's the only reason I brought those names up.
Oh.
I mean, I'm not as smart as I sound. Colton Gordon,
he was our Ken Burns of the podcast, our baseball documentarian.
Colton Gordon, he finished, I think, the season as in the bullpen, right? I mean, he'll probably end up staying down to compete to be a starter, right? Is what I would assume. I don't think you keep him up to be in the bullpen unless he's in a rotation piece.
I think he's going to be one of those depth guys that are down in AAA.
That's what I'm saying.
I agree. I mean, like, not trying to get too much in what they need to do, but they absolutely need to add at least another arm. And I think you still need to have, guys with major league experience, like Colton Gordon is a fantastic candidate to be that guy who's down in AAA, who's ready to rock and roll in case there's an injury. And he's already on the 40-man roster, so you don't have to worry about clearing the roster space for him.
Yeah. All right. Well, Bennett Sousa, we're expecting him back early season, mid-season. I don't even know what's the status on his injury.
Yeah, I don't know. I was trying to look up some of these guys that were on the IL at the end of the season, and and figure out exactly where we were. And I was even using AI, to be honest with you, to see where they are. But a lot, no, I know, call me a cheater or not, but you know, the whole deal was though, I was just trying to get news. It's like, hey, don't trust me. I'll use Gemini or Grok or whoever, you know, to try to find out, you know, just what's been thrown out there. And it's been really radio silence, to be honest with you, on a lot of these guys. I mean, unless you're playing in the World Series right now, there's really no injury reports that anybody's been updating.
Well, so, and I think,
you know,
I think that's kind of like common throughout the league, right? Just to let the World Series have its moment. You know, the Astros did kind of announce Nate
Pearson. Yeah, they signed him. Yeah, he was Nate Pearson was a top 10 prospect in the major leagues for the Toronto Blue Jays. And I believe Dana Brown was a part of that front office when they drafted him. And then I think he pitched a little bit. I think he got DFA'd or something like that. I mean, but he's another guy. Guy throws like 99. I mean, so I've been seeing a lot of fans kind of crap on him. I mean, but like what I don't understand is that you've seen this pitching staff take these pitchers that if you look at their past record, you just saw it in De Los Santos, you just saw it in Jason Alexander. This guy, for a reason, was a top MLB top 10 prospect. So if there was any team that could fix him, is going to be the Astros. And from what I also read, he's going to be vying for a spot in the starting rotation. So
yeah, I did see that.
Also real quick, I did look up Bennett Sousa's injury. October 1st, it was when he was announced with an injury, and it said he was just supposed to miss a couple weeks. So he might already be healed, but they're not playing. So I would assume he'll be ready for spring. So
all right. Good to know.
All right, Bros, go ahead.
No, I was going to say to that point, my biggest concern still, and I know that, you know, a lot of our training staff is moved on to bigger and better things. Let's keep it positive here, right? But at the same time, you know, when you have these guys that are throwing 99 consistently, I mean, that's fantastic. But the last thing we need is another elbow injury. So, yeah, I'm even willing to say, like, let's go ahead and tone it down just a little bit. Drop 2-3 miles an hour off the 4-seam or the 2-seam, and let's go from there, please, so we can get some length on some of these pitchers, whether you're in the bullpen or on the starting rotation.
Yeah, I mean, I think we saw so many injuries because you had so many guys that were not ever asked to call. They were not ever asked to pitch as many innings as they were asked to do so.
That's a fantastic point.
And so, you know, we saw it with Rodnell and his velocity last year. Chris was talked about it a lot last year, right? Rodnell was pitching way over his skis as far as innings was concerned. We saw towards the end of the season where his velocity was down to the mid 90s, the 92, 93, right? You had these guys like a Brandon Walter. Costanza hadn't pitched in a minute, you know, to the length that he has, and he stayed healthy, right? But man, it was it's still shocking to see how many elbow injuries we had from our entire pitching staff. You know, whether they came back early or not because of the piss poor medical staff that was, you know, clearing them to pitch, whatever it was. But the fact that we had so many injuries on our pitchers, it was unbelievable. You want to talk about a damn injury bug. I mean, it was like an injury colony, really, because the whole squad, the whole injury bug family was there and it's knocking people down. But if you want to silver line the whole thing, you missed the fucking playoffs by a game. That's the silver lining. One game.
I think that's more frustrating than it is a silver lining. I mean,
well, because we're kind of being a little positive, negative, but like the whole thing, it's equally frustrating at the fact that with all 31 injuries and piss poor offense, and you know, asking this guy on the couch to come pitch, you missed the playoffs by one freaking game.
No, I agree. I mean, I think to wrap up, you know, the bullpen. How many other teams in the majors that had half the amount of injuries that the Astros had have it completely tanked their season? Right? Yeah. We had 21. or 31 or 71. I don't even know. But like you see teams where they lose 2 players. I mean, dude, like we had a quadruple A outfield for about half the season.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's pretty astonishing when you go back and look at it. Once you get over the being frustrated by not making the playoffs, it's like how many other teams that had half of these injuries have finished 10, 15 games under 500?
You rolled into
like
Dodger Stadium with Zach
90%
Short as your shortstop
and swept him.
watched him eat, and you beat the crap out of the Dodgers.
No, we set the record. We had 29 players on the IL all at the same time. 29.
Yeah.
29.
Yeah.
You essentially had the Space Cowboys with Jose Altuve and Hunter Brown. That was essentially
some
what you had
guys that were working at Dick's Sporting Goods.
Yeah. That's essentially what you had. And
you ran out Bryce Matthews for a minute, right? For a long minute. You ran out. I mean, Guillorme even got some PT. Like, dude, he was everybody in Sugarland. I mean, they got a legit Astros jersey and played in real stadiums.
Dude, your outfield was Taylor Trammell, Cooper Hummel, and Kennedy Corona at one point.
Yeah.
That was your outfield.
And a player to be named later.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I mean, so it's
a guy in section 154.
Yeah. I mean, it's just kind of crazy. I mean, like, I get you're frustrated. They didn't make the playoffs. I mean, but to be positive, I mean, like this season could have been over in June.
Oh, 100%.
And people complaining about, what are we going to talk about? They're 14 games under 500. They're selling now. The world is falling apart. I mean, so just be happy that, they came one game short. So,
hit that music, man. But you get this whole team injury free or minimal injuries going into 26, and I like our freaking chances. Like I really do. That's not even being a homer. I mean, seriously. Yeah. You give me half the injuries that we had this year. It's cute, Seattle. Enjoy your AL West single banner, right? So, man, that's going to be it for us on this episode. I hope you enjoyed this one, man. I did too. This was actually a lot better than I anticipated it going because we had so much stuff to talk about the bullpen. But I'm pretty excited to talk about Sunday's episode. Sunday's episode is going to finish out our 4-part series talking about the infield. A whole bunch of stuff is going on in the infield. Potential stuff that could go off in the offseason. So make sure you tune in 7:30 Sunday evening. We'll all be back. Until then,
expect that one to go long.
I want y'all to do something for me. Hit that like and subscribe button. Let's go. Let's get some more followers. Subscribe to our channel, man. We appreciate everyone that's listening. Make sure you follow us on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're on X. We got TikToks going too. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Been all there. Over TikTok.
Juicebox Heroes. So until then, I'm PK. That's Chris. That's Bryles. We'll talk to y'all on Sunday.
Okay.
Horns in Stark Vegas this weekend.